Hello, Packers fans, wherever you may be. It's time for another edition of the Pack Attack Cast. Today, we're going to take a far too early look at the draft for the Packers. Since this is before free agency, we're going to make the following assumptions to align with our previous discussions on how we think the Packers are going to handle free agency. So let's take a look at my assumptions before we start looking at the draft. All right. Assumptions: Green Bay releases Rashawn Gary and Elton Jenkins, freeing up $28 million in salary cap. The Packers re-sign Sean Rhyan for $3 million, 24 to 30 million, about 8 to 9 million per year as their starting center. So that alleviates a lot of pressure on the draft at the center position. The Packers are going to tender Darian Kinnard for $3.5 million. I think that's a no-brainer, given his level of ability, his experience with Green Bay, and the fact that you can get a very good rotational swing offensive lineman for $3.5 million. The Packers are also going to sign in free agency a high-quality defensive tackle. Think Reeder, Tonga, Ray Lopez, somebody in that region. A solid rotational starter. In the space of Reeder, he would be a great starter, but you'd probably have to rotate him a lot given his age. So we're looking for a player that could be part of the rotation at defensive tackle, either as a 3-4 or as a 4-3 defensive line formation. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's take a look at our draft simulator. We're using PFF today. I've found that it's generally my favorite way to draft because it does have a lot of data that you can take a look at for the players. So here we are. We're at the draft. We have our assumptions in place, which we've already talked about. So we're going to take a look at this. We're probably going to run 2 or 3 simulations. The first one I like to do with no trades. Second one I like to do with trades. And then the third, we get a little creative. So we're going to first draft is going to be a no trade draft. Okay, we're going to start the draft now. Here we go. Packers are on the clock, pick 52 in the second round. One of the challenges we have here is that I think a lot of the options on the board right here aren't going to really fit what the Packers are looking to do here. We could use a tackle. I think it's a little too early for that. The first corner is Keontae Scott, but Scott is really, if we take a look at this, 6 feet 194, but he definitely is more of a player in the slot, as you can see here. So he's a slot defender, and that's really not a good fit for what the Packers are looking for in this draft at corner. So Keontae Scott does not fit Jake Golday, Chase Benitez, Jermaine Bernard. So the closest fit for what I think the Packers really need is more big bodies up front. So with no trades, I'm going to take Dante Corleone of the Cincinnati Bearcats. And again, this is a no trade situation. So we're locked into our picks. We have to make the best pick with the players that we have available for the Packers' needs. So what I want to do is look right now at corner. Okay, we got Devin Moore, Will Lee, Davidson O'Bigginson would be a good candidate. Julian Neal would be a good candidate. All these players are probably drafted much lower. But again, we can't make any trades. Let's take a look at Devin Moore here. 6'3", 198. So that definitely fits the bill for what the Packers are looking for at corner. This is a big corner. Let's look at his coverage grade, 81.5. Run defense, 81.8. So he's great in both run defense and coverage. Man coverage grade is solid. Zone coverage grade is solid. And he does most of his snaps at corner. So in a situation where we can't make any trades, Devin Moore makes the most sense for what the Packers need right now. So we'll go ahead and select Devin Moore. All right, we're at our 4th round pick for the Green Bay Packers. And we're going to double up on corner. We're going to take Davidson Imbigosson, probably drastically mispronouncing that name, but I do like what he brings to the table. So let's take a look at him. He's 6'2", 195. Definitely Packer traits. Coverage grade 81. Run defense 81.7. Man coverage 80. That is nice. Zone coverage grade 70. So with an opportunity to go back-to-back at a position of need, we're going to draft a corner here in the 4th round. There are so many trades I would like to make if we were able to make trades, but we're going to do that in the next iteration right after this. All right. So we're looking for some values here. Now, Bo Stevens is interesting because he would be a draft value here, according to PFF. And I do feel like the Packers need to look at their offensive line. So 6'5", 315. Run block grade, 83. Pass block grade, 91.6. Zone grade, true pass blocking grade, 88.6. Let's look at where he lines up. He is a left guard. So what do we know about left guard for the Packers? We know that Aaron Banks hasn't quite lived up to his potential, right? But we also know the Packers are going to stay on him for at least 1 year. So adding a guard in the 5th round with these stats that could potentially be the left guard of the future, that sounds like a no-brainer to me. So let's go ahead and draft Bo Stevens of Iowa. Really like that pick as a value pick. And looking ahead a year to what the Packers need, which is really what you want to do in your draft. Best case scenario for a team, doesn't always happen, is you want to be looking a year or two ahead when you draft, not looking for immediate starters, especially when we're talking about 5th, 6th, 7th round. This is where you can get some really good values and end up being set up really nice for the next year. All right, so here we are, 6th round, pick 20. We've got Daquan Wright. We've got Logan Jones. But remember, we've already addressed the center position by re-signing Sean Ryan. We can take a look at him. Cage Casey. Not really seeing players that really jump out at big need positions right now. Let's take a look at Daquan Wright here. Okay, 6'4", 255. Receiving grade. Run block grade. Yeah, I really don't think this is a good option for us here. So let's look at Logan Jones. He does fit within the Packers guard. Great pass block grade. Do we get a developmental center? I think there's a lot to be said for this. So let's go ahead and get a developmental center here. Again, we can't do trades, so we're locked in. Okay. 7th round. Now, 7th round would be interesting to look at a running back or a quarterback that could be developmental for the future. Let's take a look at Kalon Black here. 5'10", 211. He's a good zone runner. He has a great rushing grade. This would be more of a change of pace back for the Packers. And we do know that depth in free agency is probably going to take a hit here. So I wouldn't mind taking a running back that had 1,000 yards with the national championship team. I think there's a lot to be said for that, and I think this is a good value. So let's go ahead and take a developmental running back in the 7th round there. And now I want to take a look at quarterbacks. I think there is some potential to get a developmental quarterback here. Let's take a look at Sawyer Robertson here. 6'4", 220. Don't like those grades. Don't know if this is a good fit for us. He did produce consistently for 2 years. I'm looking for some metrics that really jump out, and I'm not really seeing it for Sawyer Robertson. Taylon Green. 6'6", 235. Intermediate grade, 90.8. Deep grade, 80.3. No pressure grade, 83.2. Pressure grade, 29.5. So with Taylon Green, one of the rest of the stats look pretty good, except for when you look at under pressure. So the question is that something that you can train out of a player, especially with a couple years to develop? And I think we're going to take a shot on Taylon Green. Basically, your mileage may vary on which quarterback, but what I'm trying to do here is add a developmental quarterback to the roster for possible backup duties in the future. All right, last pick, 257. We have not added a tight end yet, and I would like to see a tight end that can actually be a depth addition to this team. 6'2", 249. Again, coming from the Indiana Hoosiers. Good receiving grade. Now, if you look at his size, 249, 6'2", he would be actually a great candidate for a developmental blocking back for the blocking tight end for the Packers. And that's really something I would like to see the Packers get on their roster. So let's take Riley Nowinowski. And again, we cannot make any trades with this draft, so I think there's going to be some problems with our score. So let's take a look at this closely. It's saying that we should have added tackle Drunker instead of Devin Moore. I don't know if I agree with that. So we got a B+ for our defensive lineman, our F for Devin Moore. I believe that I can understand why that would be a bit of a reach. Igbinosun, A-. Bo Stevens, a B plus. I really like that pick. Logan Jones, giving us an A minus for a developmental center. Kaleon Black, a C plus as a running back in the 7th round. Traylon Green, B minus from Arkansas. And Riley Nowinowski, a C plus in the 7th round. Overall grade B minus. Now let's take a look at a new mock draft where we can actually do some trades, because I think we can definitely improve our score here. Another thing that score isn't factoring in is the fact that we have those pre-draft assumptions. PFF doesn't have the same pre-draft assumptions we do, so you're going to see some difference there. So let's go ahead and do another mock draft with trades. I'm sure we can improve our score here. All right. Ooh. Oh, Colton Hood. That is a name I have not seen yet. So let's take a look at him. 6 foot, 195, has Packer stats, has Packer traits. Where does he play? Corner. He plays true corner. Coverage grade 80, man coverage 76. Yeah, I'm not liking this pick, Colton Hood. I do not really like the fit here. So, can we trade down? Because I do like Dante Corleone in the 2nd round. Can we make a trade to get a little bit more juice and still get him? So we have the Colts. No, it doesn't look like we can. So you know what? I'm going to stick with our original pick and take Corleone. I think it's really the best value how the draft has fallen in the 2nd round. All right. All right, we've got Devin Moore here. Jennings Dunker. Okay, so can we see if we can get Devin Moore closer to his average draft position? Okay, so we got the Tennessee Titans at 101. That would be our best opportunity here. So what if we trade down to 101? From 84 to 101 and get a additional pick of 140. Can we sweeten this? Maybe get like 183 as well? Yeah, I feel like we need a bit more of a sweetener to move down almost 20 spots. So let's get pick 101, pick 140, and pick 183 for our pick 84. And let's cross our fingers and see if that corner is still there. If not, we'll look at some other options. All right, at corner. Okay, we do have Will Lee available, which is a guy that I actually really like. We still have Davison available. So again, can we trade down a little? I mean, actually, he's going to pop down right where we are. So let's go ahead and take Will Lee III. Let's take a look at him. 6'1", 189. Man coverage 76.6. And he is a true corner. So a lot of people are predicting that Will Lee would be a good target for the Packers. So let's go ahead and draft him there. Okay, Genesis Smith, Terian York. Seeing if there's any values. I like J.C. Davis. Okay, let's look at the center position, the corner position again, because we know Brian Gutekunst likes to double up. Okay, so Julian Neal would be a good target to get a second corner. But it's a little early to take him. But there's a lot of teams. So can we get him and still make a little trade down? So we could take the Jaguars pick at 124. 120. And we can get another pick at 233 by moving down 4 slots. Let's go ahead and make that trade. And we can get Julian Moore. So we're going to double up on corner and get an additional draft pick. I like that. Okay, 5th round, pick 2. I really like that Bo Stevens pick. And he would be a value right now. So you know what? We're going to take Bo Stevens here. Potential guard starter of the future. 158. Let's take a look at Trey Moore here. Run defense. Yeah, it's not really jumping off the page at me. Trey Moore. Pass rush grade, run defense. Just trying to look for maybe a Quay Walker replacement here. Decent tackle prospect here from Notre Dame. Jalen Kilgore. He is a slot corner, so that will not work for us. How about a edge player? Pass rush grade, pass rush win grade, outside tackle. You know what? We're going to take a tackle. Developmental tackle from Notre Dame. We've got a lot of picks because we've actually traded down a fair amount. Okay. Tackles. Let's take a look at Oscar Delp here. 6'5", 245 from a quality program. Not really giving us the juice at tight end I'd look for there. How about Cole Breviard here? Yeah, let's add some defensive line depth here. All right, 6th round. Do we go corner again? Because I really like Damani Jackson. He's from an Alabama program, 6'1", 196. He's great in zone coverage, which would be great if we switch to quarters. At this point in the draft, I'm going to go ahead and get another corner. That's 3 corners if you're keeping track at home. But Brian Gutekunst really does like to attack his problem issues. 7th round. Devin Eastern. 6'6", 320. A gap and B gap. So this is a potentially a depth rotation player on the defensive line. I'm going to go back to Keelan Black and add some depth to the running back room. We are talking about the 7th round here. And let's go with a different developmental quarterback here. I've looked at Cole Payton a couple times, so let's take a look at that. He had a great year last year. 90.6 passing grade, intermediate grade, pressure grade. This is a great target for the Packers in the 7th round, 6'3", 233. And what I really like here, he was actually first in college football at big time throw rate. So making those big plays down. You see, he's got a deep grade, no pressure grade, pressure grade. This is our development quarterback of the future, Cole Payton. Okay. We haven't added a tight end yet. Don't think we'll be adding one there. Let's take a Wisconsin tackle. Very fitting for Green Bay. Take a developmental Wisconsin tackle. All right, our last pick at 257. Lots of quarterbacks here. Haven't added a tight end yet. 6'4", 240. How about Carson Ryan? Oh, okay, interesting. 6'4", 250. Run block grade 75.3, receiving grade 82.6. This would be a great depth addition for the Packers. He can be a solid receiver out of the tight end position and also be a good blocker. Carson Ryan would be a nice developmental target for the Packers in the 7th round here. So let's go ahead and go with that. All right, let's see if we improved now that we're able to do some trades. They wanted me to draft Colton Hood. But we stuck to our guns with Deontay Corleone. All right, we got a B plus grade for Corleone. We then traded down. We picked up a third round pick. Oh, actually, we traded our third, went down to the fourth, but we picked up an extra fifth and sixth round pick, and still got a player for our corner room. That's a B plus. We then traded down again for an additional seventh round pick. Traded down 4 spots. Still got another corner to add to the corner room. Bo Stevens was still added as a guard. I'm not sure why we got a C plus for that, because it really liked that move when we did it in the previous draft. So I do like Bo Stevens as a developmental left guard of the future. Emil Wagner, an A. Cole Brevard, an A minus. Damani Jackson, another corner, a B plus. Kaleon Black, a C plus. Cole Payton, a C plus. Riley Malman, a B plus. But any Packers fan, if we take a Wisconsin Badger, that's going to be an A pick for the Packers. And Carson Ryan at tight end is a C plus, so our overall grade is a B plus. So let's take a look at what we addressed here. We added defensive tackle depth with a possible starter in Corleone. William Lee and Julian Neal are added to the corner room to battle out for possibly being a starter. Like those additions. Bo Stevens as a left guard development player of the future. In the event we move away from Aaron Banks in 2027, which I think is very likely. Emil Wagner as a developmental tackle. Cole Brevard as a developmental defensive tackle. Dermani Jackson, another room player from a high quality program that you can add to the corner room. Kaleon Black is depth and possibly a little extra juice as a third down back. Cole Payton, I really like his potential as being a long development for a backup quarterback. Riley Malman, how can you not love a Wisconsin Badger going to the Packers? And Carson Ryan, I think, is a good depth player at tight end. So there you go. There's 2 far too early mock drafts. We have a no trade mock draft, and we have a trade heavy mock draft. And I do expect that Brian Gutekunst is going to move around a lot. It would not surprise me if the corner he isn't looking for in the second round is there, if they go defensive line, and they might trade down because there is a gap between the elite corners and solid upside corners in this draft. So it might make sense, like I did, to move down a little bit and still get some quality additions to the corner room. That's it for today's edition of the Pack Attack Cast. We'll be back in a couple days with hopefully some Packers news and notes. It is the quiet season. If we don't have any news and notes, then we'll try to dive into how the Packers can improve on defense this year. See you then. As always, go Pack Go.